All right, everybody, welcome to the Let's Stay Together talk show. Your host, Reverend Rick McCain, along with my baby, my girl, my boo, Brenda McCain. How you doing, baby?
I'm good. It's Happy Tuesday.
All
Happy
right.
Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Happy
We got
Tuesday
a
to
great show
you. Yeah, we
tonight.
do have a great show. We
Oh my
got some
God.
people that are coming on to talk about this book, Triumph in the Trenches. It's going to be a panel guest. I'm telling you, if you really want to know about some things about finance and all those kind of wonderful things that can help you make it through the trenches of life and your job and life in general, you want to stay on here between the hours of 7 and 9 when they come on, and go tell somebody. You know somebody that needs some money advice. Go tell what was that name again? Revlon and
Geritol.
Geritol, to get on the line and find out all about what we're talking about. So once we get them all on the air, we'll, on the call, we'll bring them in and let you know. But we got some great things we'll be talking about today. I hope you had a happy Resurrection Day. Hope you went to church on Sunday. A lot of times we as Christians, we tend to try to avoid that day because other people, come in there and then, they take your seat and you get mad and don't want to sit somewhere. You ain't thankful that the person actually came to the church anyway. You just mad because they took your seat. That's why I sit at. The Lord called me to sit there, but not that day, baby. He called somebody else to sit there. So be thankful that people are coming to church at any at the time. We know Easter's when people come to church. We know Easter's a lot of times when a lot of people join the church. The prayer should be that not only do they join that day, but they come back and continue their lives, in Christ Jesus, because it's a hard world out there. They said a hard knock life, and a lot of things are going on a little bit crazy, and we are praying for that. I think we saw a couple of plays this week, and we're not gonna be talking about the usual thing, the Christian reel and stuff like that, because I did have a topic that I was going to talk about. That I'm going to talk about next week. It actually came from somebody we was talking about. It was an old sermon that I heard one time, but I'm not going to do the sermon. But the title is, "I don't want to wound you, I want to kill you." And it's basically talking about how people in your life sometimes they just don't wound you. They kill your spirit. They destroy your spirit. Things in life that will not only wound you, but it'll kill you from even having any kind of encouragement or desire at all to do anything. We just want to be able to make sure that we don't allow that to happen, because the Bible tells us that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. But we do have to realize that there are times in life where things will not only wound us, it will kill us spiritually, to the point where we sometimes even walk away from the blessings of God because we allow things that happen to us in the world to defer our spiritual blessings. And so we got to make sure that we stand up and go the distance with Christ, and not just, allows weapons that come against us, to prosper. Because a lot of times what happens, Brenda, is that our biggest weapon that prosper against us is us. We allow that to happen. So we can talk about that. And I know I had something for making marriage work, but we're going to do a little bit changing on some of the things that we do. And we'll share that with you when we finalize how we're going to move forward. But we're trying to just stay ever present in different, locations. I get on Instagram and do, short stories, and I want to get more into the relationship letters. We're getting some of those letters, and I want to share more about that as well. But as soon as we get everybody on, we will let you know. Maybe you could check with Carrie and see if they got the message that I want everybody on is 7:15, which is, gives me enough time to just run my mouth. I hope you all are doing okay. Take some time. Once again, take some time, because we got a panel discussion we're going to have. We have 5 different people on there. All of them were a part of this amazing book. Can I see that book for a second, babe? This amazing book that we have here that's called Triumph in the Trenches. You may not be able to see the book that well because it's actually green, but it is Triumph in the Trenches, and we've had the majority of the people. This is the Green Book for Black Professionals, and we got an opportunity to buy one and get it signed by Dr. Carrie Young McWilliams, who signed our copy on here, and so. We've got, I think it's 2 volumes of this. They're going to be talking about it in essence on here and just trying to break down, the guidelines, the Green Book. If you never heard about the Green Book, the original Green Book was a Green Book that African Americans, blacks at the time, had to use so they could find, colored, when we was, black, we were colored, Negro, black. Now we're African American, but at that back in the 40s and 50s, probably sometimes even in the 60s, they had this Green Book where African Americans would use to travel because it would let them know places they could go to buy gas, for lodging, for food, and basically, the book would also give them the opportunity to go different places in different states. So if they're traveling, they could make it there before nightfall because African Americans back then didn't want to be on the roads at night because treacherous things could happen. And so they had this Green Book that was written. And because of that, it helped a lot of people. It actually helped a lot of black businesses. There were parks that you can go to. There was, lakes and and stuff like that you could only go to because you couldn't go to a lake or a river or a pond
or a pool and stick a toe up in
right and that were owned or operated by whites or whites would go to, and so you had to have your own place to go to. And I can't think of that one lake that they had a movie about it, and I can't remember the name of it now.
It was on Lake Placid.
No. It was a place where African Americans would go, and they were able to have their own fun, or places they could go eat, and hotels or motels they can go to. And so this book is basically speaking from that behalf, where it's a green book for black professionals and how to make it through the trenches, how you can facilitate some of the things you got to go through, because let's just be honest, racism is still here, alive and well. I used to call it hidden racism, but now that Trump is in there, it's not hidden no more. He's letting you know that "Make America Great Again" is basically a slogan of saying, making it predominantly white. Mm-hmm. And, you have to be very careful with, things you go through and at jobs that you're at, and how do you make it through the process. And so that they're going to be talking about that.
Idlewild.
Idlewild. There you go. That's right. The movie was Idlewild. And
a popular black resort, beautiful lake.
Yeah. And so thanks for looking it up.
And Allatoona Lake.
Allatoona Lake. Mm-hmm. Thanks for stopping me again.
Go ahead. That's what
I'm joking. So we're just waiting for them to come in. We don't have any topics we're going to talk about today, but I do want to just say, hey, I understand that, life can be sometimes very difficult, but try, for those of you all who are really getting wounded, and again, by a lot of the things that are happening in life, try to focus on Jesus. Don't let situations in your life dictate how you are going to move forward. There are a lot of things that happen in this world, as they would say, life keep lifing, that is going to try to pull you down. And there was always something I would say myself. Today, I was driving home from work, and I thought I was going to get home close to 5 o'clock, and then they had an accident on the expressway, and all kind of things kind of trickled down to slow me down. And even going to work, there were some things that slowed me down. But I always say this one thing: if this is the worst thing that happened to me today, I'm blessed. And I think sometimes we hold on to things that happen in our lives, and we gravitate and hold on to the negative and we don't think or gravitate and hold on to the positive. We have to be able to, release that, walk away, wipe the dust off of our feet from the things that are happening to us that, that could easily be resolved. I mean, okay, yeah, you had a flat tire, but it can be fixed. You had a bad day at work, but tomorrow's coming. You're still getting paid. You still have a job. You may be, fighting, how to pay your rent, but you're still able to pay it. And you're not like some people who are afraid to even come out of the house because they're worried about, if they're going to be deported to, back to a land that they've never been at. So there's so many things that we can look at and stop allowing the negativity to hold us down, because one of the things we do so much in life, Brenda, is that we hold on to the negative and we compound it. I fall in that myself. I mean, just because I'm in a ministry and I've been in there for like 30, 40 somebody years almost, it doesn't mean that that doesn't, that Satan won't attack me with that, something will drop or this will happen, that. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be one of those days, and then, I get that knock upside the head. Like, you dropped that, Rick. Don't stop giving Satan so much credit for something that's, okay, you dropped something, a broken glass. Here we go. We had one of those days. Stop doing that. Hey, maybe pay attention to the glass the next time, Rick, that you don't drop it. Or when you pick up your phone and it falls out of your hand, maybe pay attention to how you're picking up the phone. There's so many small things that happen in our life that we allow ourselves to get so bent out of shape that if we just took the time and just, as first, start your day off, giving God thanks. Every time I go to work and come home, all I listen to is gospel music, something just to feed into my spirit. And let me just tell you this, this is a Christian real moment. It doesn't mean that every time I'm listening to that gospel music, my flesh or my mind is focusing on that music. Because sometimes my mind may wander. But you know what? It feeds my spirit. And it gives my spirit a connection with God, because it's hearing words of affirmation to the Lord. And then that spirit gets stronger and stronger, that is able to fight against anything that's that's coming against my flesh or my mind. And so when I have a situation that comes up, because I fed my spirit with, spiritual nourishment of God and affirmation to God and lifting up God, it's more powerful than my flesh that's going to be concerned and worried and doubtful and in pain and misery or conflicted. I mean, it is able to offset that to a point that I don't allow any weapons to form against. I can say, that's no big deal. I can move forward. And so you need to always start they say breakfast. We need to have a spirit fast. You need to start your day off, letting your spirit eat from the word of God, hear the word of God, singing the word of God, something with the word, a prayer to the word of God. Start that off that way. And so that your spirit is stronger. I know, yeah, you're going to need to eat some food, but eat some spiritual food first, so that you might be able to fight against the wiles of the devil.
I do want to say this in the time while we have that when you said wake up, be thankful and have an attitude of gratitude when you wake up, because the world we living in now is just deplorable to the point of you here today, gone tomorrow. I'm not just talking about Hispanics getting scooped up off the streets. Any little thing that could happen, because like I said, he didn't open a Pandora box of racism that is right in front of you, in your face all day long, and you second guessing who you can trust is not African American. I know it's bad people in every race, but that man that sits in the White House is the face of evil right now. And unfortunately, We have to live this. We in our trenches. We got to go through this with our eyes wide open, our mouth shut, and ears wide open because you want to hear everything that's going on. Stay abreast to the news. I know we don't like watching it, but you need to know what's going on in your surroundings because right now, if you don't have that, and woe is me every day is bombarding your heart and your spirit, you're gonna cave. If you never believed in God, you better believe in him now because you're gonna have to have that powerful force behind everything because we can't do it alone. So stay prayed up and stay ready.
Yeah. Okay. So I know why you said 7:30 because your picture has 7:30. But that wasn't the time that I had started off with. But that's fine. We do have 4 people on now, so Kenny's going to bring them on to us so we can start doing a part of the paneling that we have. So we're going to bring the guests on. Once again, we're going to have a panel that's talking about Triumph in the Trenches. It's the Green Book for Professionals. Take some time before they come on. Find some people that you know that really need to hear about this because these are some amazing African American individuals that are coming on who have done some great things in the world in the name of God that are going to be sharing some of they're going to get their nuggets, spiritual nuggets that are going to be able to help us. And so I am seeing my brother Philip. What's it?
Woolfolk.
Woolfolk. I don't know why I can't speak.
I'm just gonna say, hey, Philip.
I don't know
Hey.
why.
Hey, Carrie.
How are
Again,
you?
Wait. We got the
Reverend
down.
Doctor. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
So we got 4 people on there. Hello, everybody.
Wait
Oh, wait a
a
minute.
minute.
Hello.
Okay, she just bumped somebody out, didn't she?
No, what?
I think we got-
yeah.
We got 4 people in there.
We got
So,
one more coming.
Yeah, we got.
Should be one more.
Should be here. She was on.
You gonna see me?
Oh, there you go.
I see
Yeah.
you.
I see the
Yeah.
Reverend Doctor. I
We see
her.
Reverend Doctor
Yeah.
Okay.
Barnes. And then,
Layla should be here though. She's maybe she's running a little behind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I'm just so happy, Carrie. Hey, Carrie. Look, I see you, Carrie. I just want to say this. Last week, she came in, and she's our powerhouse here, and she said she could round up the troops, and she rounded you guys up. And I love her for that, and thank you for being on Let's Stay Together Talk.
Thank you.
Babe, you introduce yourself, then I'm on.
Well, I appreciate you allowing me to do that.
You know, gotta play well.
So,
we crazy.
So yeah,
get ready.
so I want y'all to know we do have a real good time in the name of the Lord. That's why I call it Let's Stay Together Talk. We've been married for 30 years, going on 31 years, and so
Awesome.
we talk crazy to each other.
We do.
That's what love duties, But
It does.
I'm Reverend Rick McCain, along with my baby, my girl, my boo, to host the show. We do love
What's
the fact
her
that you
name?
came.
What's your baby name?
You just said your name,
But you
didn't
got
you?
your
Did
baby,
you not say your name?
See, we married. We
My
marrying
God.
right now.
Her name is Brenda McCain. That's my wife.
AKA Betty Shabazz.
Yeah,
And
she-
you guys understand that as we. I like this Dr. Reverend.
Yeah.
Reverend Doctor.
Yeah. So I mean, we were fortunate enough to be able to find Carrie, and what a pleasure that has been. I mean, we tell everybody once you get on the show, you're like family. So you won't be able to get rid of us. We like baby kids. We don't die. We multiply. So you're gonna be with us for a long time. But we're so excited because I just felt that this was such a important conversation that we should have with the folks on the radio, because it's having a green book for professionals to be able to help young people, even some of the people that are older like me, seasoned, that still don't know the walk that needs to be done. It's such a blessing to have you all come with the plethora of knowledge and information that you have to share with our audience so they can understand that. I know my baby got the book. We did get our one of our books in. So we have that book here. I always buy books when someone's on the
Carrie,
show.
I'm rotating
So
for you.
we got the book up there. It looks like it's
A different
a
color, but
different
it's
color,
green.
but it's green, and so it's falling in with the green screen. But I'm gonna let Brenda start off a little bit, and come up with a question and how she wants to do it, and then we're gonna get into it and just let you all just give us the nuggets of knowledge.
Again, I say welcome to Let's Stay Together Talk. I want to have fun with you guys for the next hour and a half here, but I want to know how to pronounce your name right. Is it Dr. Sharon?
It's Sharon.
Sharon.
Sharon?
Yeah.
Sharon. Just plain old Sharon.
See, I'm not going to get
Sharon. Is that what you're saying? Sharon,
Yes.
right?
Sharon.
It's almost like saying Jerome, but Sharon.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, Dr. Sharon, got that. And Reverend Doctor, you just tripped me up because I'm like, how do you pronounce your name? I'm not good at X names. How you pronounce
Is
your
it
name?
Zena?
Okay, so it's pronounced Senya,
Senya. Okay.
Senya,
like sin.
Senya.
There we go, Senya.
Okay, fancy you. Senya. Okay, I'm making sure I get it right. I don't want to mess up no one's name. We got Philip, we got Carrie, and then of course we're gonna have is it Leela or Lila?
Leela. Layla. Is she there? Did
No,
she come on
not
yet?
She's
Yeah.
not.
She's not
yeah,
here.
I'm gonna
yeah.
take-
But I just want to. So it's Layla. How you pronounce it?
Yes.
I'm gonna text her
Okay.
and see what's going on.
So we gonna work with
Yeah,
that. but-
I just texted her. I didn't hear back yet.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, well she could jump on in, but when it the way we want to do this, I pulled out your chapters for each one, and when the question comes to you, I'm gonna do a snippet of your bio just to introduce you to our listening audience and everything. But I'm just
And
going through this.
I'm gonna stop her real quick because I want to do one thing.
What you
I
want?
want Carrie just to give us a synopsis of what Triumph in the Trenches is before we start dabbing into the individuals. So can you give our audience a little bit of that information? Oh wow, she's on the screen for us.
Oh, okay.
I
Hey,
know.
girl,
How did
I
that
see
happen?
you.
Kenny didn't cook us
And he
off.
put us on the green screen. Well, go, girl, go.
One of me is enough. So Triumph in the Trenches. This is volume 2. In the division of what will be a trilogy, is to give a guidebook for Black professionals from the perspective of Black professionals who have already been in these situations in different spaces. Whether it's life lessons, whether it's in the academia world, whether it's in the finance world, you'll find out that we use our own lived experiences to help guide those who come behind us or that currently in those areas that don't know quite how to navigate. And the way we did the play on the Green Book is that historically there were, I think, 3 editions of the Green Book, which was given to Black people when they traveled across country by car, letting them know, well, even by bus and train, letting them know where it was safe to stop and gas up, where it was safe to stop and get a meal, and where it was safe to stop and lodge. And so what we want this book to be is a guidebook for safety in the workplace or learning space or wherever space you're trying to navigate from the time. And since we've already lived these experiences, not that your experience will be exactly like ours, but hope we can give you a beacon of light while you're in those spaces and letting you know that we can triumph in the trenches and there's no need for you to think that you're alone. Because oftentimes when we get in situations, we might feel like, I'm the only one? Am I the only one feeling this way? And we want people to know, no, you're not. And this is how you may use some of these strategies. And most of us have a call to action and strategies that we share within our book, in our chapters, that will help you navigate, because there's no set formula. Everyone has their own life to live and their own lived experiences. But if you can learn from somebody else's experience, that's probably the best way to navigate through life.
Okay. How did you come about connecting and collaborating with everyone to help you with the book? That's for you, Carrie.
Man, I was looking at Philip. Okay. So
I mean, Philip can answer if he wants to.
So we have a wonderful publisher through the Writer's Journey, Alona Washington, who guides us in. She had this vision that there were so many Black authors who had things to say and may not have the time, the resources, or the stamina at the time to complete their entire book on their own. But we had good ideas and the good meat and potatoes to bring together to bring a rich anthology. So she recruited us in different methods. For me, it was a book study, to come to her, and through her publishing house, she has an indie publishing house where she encourages us, she meets with us, she mentors us. She also is a former employee of a larger publishing house, but now decided to start her own. So we meet periodically as a group, via Zoom, virtually over the phone, and we exchange ideas and we find ways to lift each other up, just as in this opportunity to be on SOAR Radio last week. Once you guys were asking me such great questions, I was like, wow, wouldn't it be great if the rest of my co-authors were here to help answer from their lenses and from their different perspectives and expertise. So as a group, we tend to travel, whether it's one or two of us, all of us, but what we try to do is uplift each other and present opportunities to the group. When we're able to all participate, we can. If it's just a few of us, we do that too. But in all representing and getting the word out, because at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. And that's what Alona Washington, through the author's journey, encourages us to do.
Okay, thank you for answering that. Because when I was reading the bios, I'm like, kudos to all of you guys. Beautiful work that you're doing. I see Miss Leela.
Leela has joined us.
Leela has
Has
joined
joined
us.
us.
Welcome to Let's Stay Together Talk, getting to know your colleagues. And we're going to have a good time with you. Because like as I was saying, the bios of each and every one of you guys was just beautiful. To see all of this polishedness with us, and we don't see that there she go, we could see her now. in the world, you don't see that, so thank you. And I think my baby ready to start.
You got a question?
Well, I'm letting her get situated and get in, because she popping right into us. So you wanna
No, you
say-
say go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, I'm going to say welcome again, since we got the baby girl up in here. And one of the questions is, I'm going to start off first. Well, you know what, Dr. Carey, I'm going to switch a little bit, because you did two things of talking. Senya, am I saying it right?
Senya.
Okay. Senya.
There we go. Come on, baby. You got it.
Reverend Dr. Senya Barnes. She contributed to chapter 6 of this beautiful book, and that chapter was The Invisible Battle, I believe so, navigating the minefield of workplace and accommodation. Now, she is a renowned social and behavioral keynote speaker and trauma expert, celebrated for her innovative fusion of academic research with community intervention. So I want you to talk to us about the inclusive landscape that is fraught with invisible barriers and unspoken struggles in the workforce.
Sure. First, I want to say thank you so much for having me. Carrie, thank you so much for bringing this opportunity to the team. But in terms of the chapter, it was important to write this chapter because in 2021, I was diagnosed with a terminal lung disease, and it became such a hardship and battle within my work environment, to where I found myself fighting to explain why I needed accommodation, a reasonable accommodation, even though I was able to and very much capable of doing my work from home, and I didn't necessarily need to be in the building. I was battling against a principal who felt because she didn't understand my diagnosis that it was either pretend or she just her preference was to have everyone back in the building. And so because of that, it was important for me to raise the flag of awareness that just because you can't see or understand someone's disability doesn't mean that they don't have a disability. And so
Amen to
it's
that.
important to highlight the invisible disability, because if I don't have my oxygen on, you would not be able to tell that I'm disabled. You will not be able to tell that I need a double lung transplant. You would not be able to tell that I can be walking, speaking to you like this, and then just faint in the middle of that. And have to be hospitalized. So with that being said, there's so many individuals who are showing up to the workforce and showing up trying to do the best that they can and do their job, and they're being met with such aggression, they're being met with such dismissiveness, they're being met with so many challenges, that it's important that awareness is raised. It's important that that is being spoken about, especially for Black women. Black women are 2.3 more times likely to hide what they're going through, just because we already have so many challenges that we're facing. We have so many questions about our authenticity. We have so many questions about our capability. We have questions about are we competent enough, or just the fight to even get in the room. So to even acknowledge that you have a mental disability, to acknowledge that you have a physical disability or any type of challenge, we kind of hold that closer to the sleeve, just because we're already met with such dismay anyway. And so within the chapter, I wanted to expose that. I wanted to break that barrier. I wanted to remove that shame and let people know that it's okay to speak up for yourself, and it's okay to hold your employees accountable to making sure that they're doing the things that they're supposed to do to protect you in the workforce, and also to show up and meet you where you need to be so that you can be the most productive.
Yeah. It's so great that you shared that, because you took one of my questions I was going to ask you. Was there something else other than the medical that you found that as you're triumphing through the trenches? Was it also something that had to do with the way you look or your hue? And you did bring that up. Talk a little bit more about how that challenge inspired you not only to write the chapter, but envision how that situation and the writing of that chapter would help other people.
Sure, and thanks for asking that. Um, the challenge was not only it was not only my testimony of what I was going through, but it was also my expertise, my testimony, but also my triumph. It was my ability to not back down, and then my ability to put myself before anything else. As individuals, as women, we often carrying the weight of so many others, and we think about everyone else before we think about ourselves. And while I was writing this chapter, and even while I was experiencing everything I was going through, I was saying, how wonderful would it to be able to inspire other women and inspire other individuals with disabilities to not feel ashamed about what they're going through, and also to be able to feel like they're conquering a challenge instead of being fearful of that challenge. And I say that because we're often, when you're battling a disability, you're often beating yourself up or being angry about the things that you can no longer do. And for me, this chapter is an eye opener. It's an aha moment to the testament that you don't have to do that. You can be okay with closing a chapter of what you once were, so that you can be phenomenal in the chapter that you are now becoming. And so for me, this is my becoming chapter. This is I'm stepping out on faith and saying, you know what, I'm going to be a voice for those who feel muted. And I want to use a little bit of my strong will to encourage other people to stand up and say, I will no longer allow people to push me around. I will no longer allow people to tell me that I'm less than because I I don't look like they look, or I'm not capable of doing all the things at the speed that they're able to do it. You can triumph and point intended. You can triumph through any trench as long as you have faith, as long as you believe in yourself, and as long as you are willing to not back down from the battle, because the battle isn't over unless you give up.
Amen.
And that's why we call her Reverend.
You do this.
Thank you. I mean, I get it. Everything you said is on point. As women, no offense to Philip and Rick, but as women in the workforce, like you said, we carry the heavy load with so many other people burdens. We thinking, I have to nurture, I have to help. We all, that's just a black woman. That's the strength that we have. But when it comes to disabilities on a job, they do shun us much faster than our counterparts. They will work with them. Well, do you need time off? Do you need, what is it, FLA or whatever the thing is?
FMLA.
Yeah, they didn't offer that to us a lot. It was to them, because I remember I was in a corporate role for 15 years at a bank, and it was two different worlds. You go in there, and I learned HR did not work for us, people of color. But other people, it was more so, well, we could work with you. We could do this or we could do that. Somebody else went with the same problem. You have to figure it out. That was it. And it's like, oh, okay. And so, like you said, it's in your face, and you like, okay. So when you did go back to the company or wherever you was working at, what did they do when you said, I got a voice, this is what I have to say?
So believe it or not, it was a sister that I was back and forth battling with. Yeah. So it was very disheartening, because for me, I thought that she would understand more the fight. We already have enough people fighting against us. Why you join into the club? But that's another story, right? She's part of my Triumph in the Trenches Volume 1 story. I won't give her any more power to share in this version of the story.
Amen.
But
Yeah.
what I did notice, and this is when I decided, you know what, I gotta put my health first and walk away, was when I noticed that someone of my counterparts put in for a reasonable accommodation, and she was going through a divorce, and they automatically made her a consultant. But here I was fighting for my life. I was fighting for my life when the doctors were saying that was giving me a time limit on my lungs, and they were not willing to budge as far as a reasonable accommodation. They wanted me to just leave the job. And so when it got to the point when I realized I was making myself sicker, trying to meet their accommodations and try to come up with all different types of plans of how I still could do my job, I said, you know what? I'm more important than this job. And I said, you can have it. You can have this job. You can have this job. I gave it to them. I didn't feel no way. I packed up my equipment. I sent it in with my sister. My sister went and dropped off all my equipment. And let me tell you, the doors that opened up for me after that were large, great, and phenomenal. And I met so many other individuals, especially the ones that's here with me today, that has been filling me in such a greater way than the ones that I was working with. And don't get me wrong, I still have some colleagues that I keep in touch with, but I was not being fulfilled the way I should have been fulfilled. I wasn't being met with grace the way I should have been met with grace. And that was because I was fighting against myself, trying to fill the shoes for someone else of expectations of what they thought I should be. And the moment I gave up on that, and the moment I gave in to my faith, and I gave in to God and say, you use me as the will and the way that you want to use me,
Amen.
a weight was lifted off of me. And I am now being the person that I didn't even see this person coming. I didn't even see this person coming, but you know what? I love her. I love her, and I enjoy being her, and I enjoy being in the spaces and touching the lives of the many that I'm able to do now that I wasn't able to touch before.
Amen.
Well, thank you.
Amen.
You have anything to say before I
No,
go to the next
yeah,
one?
go ahead.
Okay. I'm just gonna say, Mr. Phil. Well, I ain't gonna say Doctor. Mr. Philip. Okay, we have Philip D. Is it Woolfolk?
Woolfolk.
Woolfolk.
Woolfolk. Okay, he serves as managing director of Main Street Advisory LLC and Philip Speaks LLC. Under Main Street Advisory, Philip served as an alternative lender, facilitating capital and building business credit to increase his clients' capacity. His contribution was Chapter 10, Foundation for Change. What is Fighting Corporate Style 2.0?
Well, Fighting Corporate Style 2.0, I'd have to back up to Triumph in the Trenches Book 1 to put that in context. So I grew up in the rough part of town. I fought all the bullies growing up. And once I got into the corporate space, I found out there were bullies there too. The only difference is, you know, historically as a family, my dad and my uncles were I would say if they were back in the times of the movies with John Wayne and some of those cowboys, if my uncles rode into town and John Wayne came to the saloon door, he would say, "We don't mess with those guys." So my dad and my uncles didn't take really much stuff off of anybody. And I remember my dad being fired when I was very small from a job. Someone called him the N word, and he body slammed the guy into some solution that they used on the job and got terminated. So when I got into the corporate space and the corporate world, and I started dealing with folks who were needed to be body slammed, I realized that I had to fight corporate style. I couldn't beat people up. And so Triumph in the Trenches, one, I tell the story about a senior vice president who thought he could take my office. I had a large office. I had 2 desks in my office, and everybody that came to that particular building had no problem sharing the other desk. This particular guy thought he could take my office and move me out to a cubicle. So I decided one Saturday when I was finishing up work to take that spare desk out of my office, take it apart and put it back together in the copy room, and move my desk to the center of the room and lock my office door. And that started a little bit of a challenge between him and myself. But at the end of the day, because of the quality of work I was doing, the other senior vice presidents, the chief operations officer, and the president of the bank all had a lot of respect for me. So he had no other alternative but to stand down, and eventually he stopped coming to my office. So that gives you a little bit of the backstory on Fighting Corporate Style 2.0. When we got to Foundations for Change, one of the things I wanted to elaborate on was, how do we as a community fight corporate style? So the African Americans spend about $1.8 trillion into the U.S. economy, and from my perspective, that $1.8 trillion gives us a lot of clout and a lot more power than we give ourselves credit for. And it's time for us to really start using that purchasing power that we have to demand what we want in the marketplace. So if we want more Blacks on corporate boards, more Blacks in C-suite, more Blacks taking advantage of opportunities as it relates to procurement in the corporate workforce, more procurement as it relates in public contracts between federal government, state, county, and local governments, then between the money that we spend in the economy and the money we spend on property taxes, sales taxes, the whole 9 yards, we should be demanding more. And I think one of the things you've seen over this past couple of months with how we've handled ourselves and spending in stores like Target and Walmart and stuff like that, you see that shareholders pay a lot of attention when revenues fall and shareholder value goes down and stock price drops. that is the kind of economic power that we have as Black Americans if we utilize it properly. And so Foundations for Change is really taking a look from a strategic standpoint and in terms of what is it we want and what demands can we make based on our economic impact in terms of the overall economy.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. It reminds me of a time that I talk about sometimes. I've been a credit manager for almost over 30 years, but I was at this one corporation, and the one of the white salesmen said, "We like Rick, but do we want a Black person over our finances?"
Right.
Because they just felt just because I was Black. Now I had over 20 some odd years of experience.
Oh yeah.
But because I was Black, they didn't want me there. And so to fight corporate, 2.0, it was difficult for me to be able to do that because I didn't have anybody backing me in that way. So Philip, how can someone that's going through the process of, being, biased by Black, how do I go through that process of fighting that situation compared to the scenario that you brought up?
Well, I tell you, one of my experiences have been really, you back it up with data, right? At one point, I managed sales and operations for residential mortgage lending for New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And the focus of my team was really to help low and moderate income folks become homeowners. Now, the traditional mortgage banking division did not like that at all.
Right.
And they fought us tooth and nail because, we were taking business from them is really how they looked at it. But the bottom line was they were not serving that population. Low and moderate income people in urban communities and rural communities, they were not being serviced by the mortgage banking division. And then some folks began to say things like, low and moderate income people would not pay their mortgages, right? And my position was low and moderate income people will pay their mortgages like anybody else. The only difference is, if you're a high net worth individual, you have a stock portfolio, you have $50,000 credit card lines of credit. If you lose your job, you have some time that you could still meet your obligations living on credit. Well, if a low and moderate income person loses their job, they may be one paycheck away from not being able to make their mortgage payment. And that's the only difference. So one of the things I was able to do is build a team of folks that helped me in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware establish that fact. And one of the ways we did it is after we built a solid portfolio, we had an analysis done on all of the lending across the bank. Credit card loans, home equity loans, traditional residential mortgage loans, small business loans, commercial loans, the whole 9 yards. And guess what portfolio performed the best as it relates to on-time payments? It was low and moderate income folks. So we established a portfolio of about $750 million. And once we got to that stage, that shut everybody up. And once that shut everybody up, I walked to my boss's office and told him that my position was no longer needed. My folks could be transitioned into the traditional mortgage banking division because those folks now understood that we could not do mergers and acquisitions. We could not add additional ATM machines. We could not do all those things that the bank needed to do to be able to grow and prosper if we were not meeting the needs of low and moderate income people throughout our market area. And so once that was well established, then I basically fired myself and my boss asked me, well, you're firing yourself. What is it you're going to be doing around here? And I said, well, basically, I'm good at fixing things. So you need to figure out what you need fixed next. And that's how I became the vice president and fair lending manager responsible for fair lending compliance across their 7-state market area. And one of my jobs was to make sure that people that look like us was getting a fair shake, regardless of what type of loan they might have been going for across our 7-state market area.
Amen.
Come on, y'all. That's some great information. I love it when he just went straight gangster. I'm gonna dismantle this desk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it in the copying machine room. I'm gonna sit there and y'all gonna see the works of my wonder. So thank you for
Oh,
all
yeah.
that you done, because the average Joe or Joanne been like, no, I'm good. But I
Yeah.
like that. Everybody stepping out on faith.
Well,
That's
Oh,
you
yeah.
know that was an uncle body slam corporately. You know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
2.0. It's like,
You know, taking that desk
Well, I
out
think
like that. You don't have
I
to
think-
go, but you got to get out of here.
I think my uncle and my dads would have been proud of that move.
Yeah.
mhm. Like
And
I
actually,
said,
that guy did come in my office one day before he decided that he need to get out of there. And the interesting thing is that, he had raised his voice. He was making a lot of noise. I had a big glass window so everybody could see him moving his hands and talking really loud. And they couldn't hear what I was saying. But what I said to him when I stood up was, I work in Princeton, but I'm not from Princeton. You can lower your
Yeah.
you can lower your voice, or we can step outside.
All right.
And with that, he turned around and left and called
Yeah.
my boss.
he almost got Betty
Yeah.
Shabazz coming
You know,
out.
it's
I'm like,
amazing how they can act tough in that way. But I'm going to stay in my ministry role right here.
I'm not. No.
But next person.
Next person, we have Dr. Sharon Smith Sanchez. Her chapter was chapter 8. And you know what? I messed that up. I'm just going to spell it and you're going to pronounce it.
Dr.
A-
Sanchez. That's all you
No,
got to
no.
say?
Aboagye.
Aboagye.
See, you would have messed that up too. Aboagye. There we go. That's the name of her chapter, and I said I'm gonna let her talk about it. But this is her credentials. She's fabulous too. Dr. Sanchez is a multifaceted leader with extensive experience in research, education, social services, ministry, and organizational leadership and development. My question to you, because I found this very intriguing, talk to us about the one who is powerful and complete.
Yes. So the name Aboagye means powerful and complete. And well, first of all, it is always a treat to spend time with my co-writers, and it's just an honor to be where you are. Thank you for
Amen.
having
Thank
us.
you.
But
You're blessing us.
Aboagye means perfect and complete. And as you've heard from my fellow writers, what happens is we live in a space where we are fighting these invisible bullies. Oppressors, by their very nature, must convince us that the oppression that we're experiencing is not oppression at all. And so if you've read or heard about the Willie Lynch letters, the oppressor's primary job was to make us so mentally bound, so mentally enslaved, that we would be enslaved for generations to come. And we would be fighting these bullies that we wouldn't be able to see: microaggression, misogyny, unsafety in our workplace and in our workspaces, unsafety in our places where we worship. And one of the things I talk to people about is the biggest bully of all is really theophobia. If you look at it from a spiritual perspective, theophobia really is a fear of God. I'm not talking about the kind of fear in the King James Version that talks about the bowing and the reverence to our God, but irrational fear that makes us so afraid of him that we don't really get to know him. And that irrational fear now becomes, by extension, whoever claims to represent this fearful God. The oppressors that oppressed our ancestors used that and taught us, or tried to teach us, that we needed to be so afraid that we would be blindly obedient. Now that has found its way into leadership, a misguided view of what leadership is in the secular world and in the spiritual world. And so, what I say to people is that our God gives us a faith over a fear and gives us the ability to fight these unseen bullies. So, if you look at my chapter, I start with an imaginary young woman who's not so imaginary. She's patterned after a fight I had myself as a child. But here she is teeny, she's tiny, and that's us, people of color. And we're teeny and tiny, or so we seem. We seem to be unsafe. We seem to be teeny and tiny. And we seem to be fighting these bullies that everyone is saying, oh, but that's not true. No one's being a racist against you. Buck up, come to work, do what you have to do. You're not sick, Xenia. It's this sort of thing, this pretend thing. You go to these meetings. I've lived, by the way, at the C-suite level in government as well as in social service. And I've lived as a leader in the church. And there's some form always of this unseen bully, this gaslighting that tells you that what you're experiencing is not really what you're experiencing until a group of researchers and writers come together, such as us, to say to you, it's not in your mind. It is absolutely not in your mind that you are experiencing this oppression at work. It's not in your mind that these people are truly harming you in a way that's gaslighting, that's meant to have you almost lose your mind. But you can be perfect and complete once you begin to face the fact that you are in fact powerful, and you are in fact a wise one, and you are in fact someone who has an army of other people who have had these experiences and triumphed in them, so that you can be powerful and complete. That's what it means.
That's the one.
Yeah, I will say that in so many cases you will see that because of other races thinking that we're small, or and come up with so many reasons as to just do your job and blah blah blah. There's no racism. It's that invisible thought process that these things are not happening to us. It's all in our minds. And so because that happens so much, it can negatively affect you while I'm going to keep on using this, trying through the trenches, that you actually think that it's something wrong with you. So I do like that fact that you're saying, being complete. Speak to a young person right now that's probably going through those trenches and feeling that pressure and not having anyone there. How can they find comfort in your chapter of finding that completion?
Right. So interestingly enough, I am chapter 8 in both Triumph 1 and Triumph 2.
Okay.
And 8, as we know in the spiritual world, means a new beginning. And so one of the things that I would tell such a person is you have the ability to start over. You have the ability to begin again and turn what seems to be your fear into fire. To find what made you passionate in the first place, to do well at it, to, as Philip said, combat all of this stuff that seems to be in the air with real data, with real information, to be able to say, I am who I am. So you fill that with your fire, your self-efficacy, begin to believe in who you are. And you do that by spending time around other people who are doing exceptionally well, who are like you as well. And by having an awareness of yourself and by being resilient. Now, I'm not talking about the kind of resilience that's ad nauseum where someone's beating you up and you just keep going in without a strategy. But really what I'm talking about is being strategic in your response. And one of the things that I say, that we say, is that your biggest flex is your ability to self-care, is to be able to understand that this unsafety is tiring, and you need to be strategic about when to fight and when to pull back.
Yeah. I used to tell people at the job, especially this may sound like arrogance, but it was my confidence. I would always tell the person that you're not smarter than me. You just know something that I haven't learned yet.
Yes.
And if you can learn it, so can I.
Uh,
And I had enough confidence that, if I'm not here, I can find another job because if it's something that can be learned, I have the ability to learn it just like you do. So in myself, as the Bible says, David, he made himself happy. He encouraged himself. I encourage myself in order to let people know. And when I mean people, I'm going to say it, white people. I will let them know that, if there's something that you can do, I can do as well. And so don't think because you have this knowledge that you're smarter than me. You just got an opportunity to learn something that I haven't learned yet. But once I learn it, be afraid, because I'm going to be able to use that information to a power that you're not going to be able to do, because you already looked at me as being a negative. And I used to always tell people, I love being a negative to someone because you're underestimating me. So already I've got the advantage.
But you
And they didn't
said-
like that at all. But it was like, you're not going to steal my confidence from me.
Absolutely.
You
I've been
s-
put here by the master, and if I've been put here by the master, I've been put here by the best. What you're describing is what I call lioness energy. And where I'm from in Jamaica, we call each other lion and lioness. And when I am going into that experience, even if you are coming at me, I am coming in with my lioness energy. I am an empress. When I walk in the room, I am there to own it. It is my room. It was given to me by the master. And I will not kowtow and bow before you. I bow before the Almighty God.
Amen.
No,
Really, just make sure you call me a lion from now on. But go
that's
You
right.
gonna hear me roar. What I'm just thinking about with both of you guys, what you're saying is basically white people always feared us as the threat. And when you said, just give me the opportunity, because they already been on the playing field, have it rolled out and set out for them, from nepotism to I don't care who you are, I don't want no black man over our finances. But just like what you said, you step in the room, you're going to give me my respect. Whether you have letters before your name or after your name, give me the same respect that you given Jane. Just give it to me, Brenda Faye. If you don't want to do that, and we know the playing field is unequal, then I'm like, Phil, I'm gonna dismantle something, and they gonna hear this little lioness roar, and they hate to hear the lioness roar because we already have the stigma. We're loud. We're the
Right.
black angry woman, and we always flap, flap, flap. But in this day and age of 2.0 corporate style, we have to flap, flap, flap and have our voice, because if no one else is going to do it for us, like you said, it was a black girl you was against, Senya. And it's like, I see that in the corporate world a lot, that they look at the fact that, like you said, doctor over here, I'm not gonna mess up your name, but the one who just got through speaking, when you said they see us and they want to formulate so much stuff, it's like, come on, they mentally have this capability of saying, we taught them this way, the person wants them to do this, and we as black people, we got to learn how they want us to do stuff.
I'm about to say, we're just about to bring Lila in and she disappeared on it. we appreciate your patience on that. We're going to finish up with her, then we're going to have a roundtable discussion.
Okay.
So let's go
And
to,
Rick, to be very clear,
yeah.
Frederick Douglass did not have to learn how to read under the lamp by somebody sneaking him paper. When you control how you get the information,
Yeah.
that's when you can control the people.
Yeah.
That's
But
right.
but that is no longer the issue. Now
Right.
you're seeing a little bit trying to go back to that, to control and ban books and literature and whitewash things.
Yeah.
But it's not happening. The Pandora's box, the proverbial Pandora's box, has already been opened. We, as you said, Rick, you know how to learn. Phil, you know your worth. Xenia, you knew I can get another. I can do something. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but that's gonna be all right. And that is now the invisible monster they've created, that they don't know how to put their arms around and try to get back in the box. Because we're not going back in the box.
Yeah.
Nope. And we got one about to pop out the box here.
Right,
We
right. Look, she's small, but she mighty. Just wait. I can't wait to hear what she got to say.
we have Miss Leila Lawson. She is leadership development executive, public speaker, and former law enforcement officer with over 15 years of experience in leadership and crisis intervention. Now, she need to be here in Chicago. But anyway, her chapter and contribution was chapter 4, Navigating Leadership, Career Transitions, and Growth. Now, I want you to talk to us about breaking into leadership and rising above and paving the way as an African American woman.
Okay, so I want to also correct my name for all the listeners. It's pronounced Layla, like a Hawaiian lei or flower, you know, that goes around your.
See? Okay, Layla.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to hurt anymore. I'll just let it go. So, yeah, my chapter talks about transitioning and, you know, breaking into the workforce, especially as a young Black female who started my career out in an all-male field. It was something that I didn't even think about because I was just excited to have a career. I was excited to have a job. So I knew I showed up in a space where I was the only female, I was the only Black person, but I didn't put much thought into it until things would happen around me that, you know, would be pointed out. For example, one of the things that was pointed out to me was the pay. It wasn't equal to the other people's pay. And, you know, finding that information out on accident, by the time I spoke with the individual and said, I'm sorry, come again. What did you say you make? I'm confused, you know, and I had the courage to take it to the president because the company was so small. It was just like myself, my boss, and then above him was the president of the company based out of St. Louis. And so I'd go up to St. Louis periodically and I asked the president, you know, hey, would it be okay to have a meeting with you? And he said, sure. He's very kind and polite. And I said, you know, I was thinking maybe I could get a cost of living raise. You know, I'm not trying to ask for a whole lot. And he goes, well, no, what you get is what you get, and you get your bonuses, and that's good enough. And I was thinking, well, the base salary of other people, though, are way higher than mine, and I don't even bonus the same. So how is that fair? And he said, well, if you don't like it, you don't have to work here. And I said, oh my, okay. So I see where this is going. So within that moment, I just said, well, I don't have anything to prove here. I can't go up, right? It's a glass ceiling. So it's going to be up to me to figure something else out. Because in that moment of, I did all I could do, right? I spoke up for myself and that got me nowhere. It was like, well, I guess I have to try something new, which, you know, I was working part-time at an airport and I was approached by a gentleman that said, hey, you're really good with people, how you communicate. Maybe you should be in law enforcement. And I was like, oh, I don't know about being the police. I really don't like the police. They give a lot of speeding tickets. You know, I'm not saying I like to speed, but I'm saying maybe I like to go, you know, get there quickly without, you know, any wasting time. So I go ahead and I tackle and I jump on top of that journey of going through the academy. And in the chapter, I talk about getting stopped. And this is before I'm in law enforcement. And, you know, they tell me that my tags are coming back as stolen. And I'm just like, no, that can't be. You know, this is my vehicle. Here's all my documentation. And then when I go to the police academy, I hear some of the people talking that they would say things like that to get creative to stop people because they didn't have any other reason to do a traffic stop. So they would say these excuses. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So, you know, as I got in the space of law enforcement, and again, I'm in a space with a lot of men. I'm in a space where it's not that many women, it's not that many minorities. And I'm just learning how to navigate, right? How do I speak up for someone that sees that people are being mistreated? Or how do I speak up for myself when I feel like I'm not being seen or heard without coming off as combative? Because a lot of times when I would say things, people felt as though my directness was aggressive. Because I would tell people, like, in the academy specifically, I sat closer to the front, and I would always ask a lot of questions because I wanted to understand the information. And so when people weren't saying the answer, you know, when I would ask, I would say, hey, excuse me, that's not what I asked. And then I would repeat what I asked. And they took that as me being confrontational. And I'm like, so you didn't answer what I said, but I'm being confrontational because I'm trying to get an understanding of what, okay, all right, it's me. It's me. Don't worry about it. I don't need the answer. You know, so it was a humongous challenge. I would have to learn how to frame the words I wanted to say, because if I didn't, the people that knew me would say, Layla doesn't mean anything by it. She's just, that's her. She asks a lot of questions. She likes to get an understanding. And I was just direct. When I would say, that's not what I asked you, I wasn't trying to come across as rude or nasty. I just didn't know any other way to say it, you know, but now as I've learned, I have a different approach. If someone's not answering my question, I can say, okay, help me understand what you're saying. Help me, you know, now as I've learned and matured, I can say things. And also what I didn't know is men felt a certain way about women when you question them. Like, who are you questioning me? Don't question me. You sit down and be quiet. You're just a woman. I didn't know that existed because my father and my grandmother raised me to speak up, to communicate, to say what you mean to mean what you say. So I had no knowledge, no true interaction of people that felt threatened by me asking questions or threatened by my curiosity. And that was all brand new to me. So people also would come to me when they wanted stuff done. I was the go-to person in the academy. They said, Layla, you go ask them. You will ask anything. Of course I'll ask anything. I'm not scared. When I grew up, I was told, no, I ain't never killed nobody. It ain't never killed nobody.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a word. So don't be scared to ask. You know, so if people wanted something done, people be up talking and going over to break time and they say something. Tell them we ready for a break. I say, y'all say something. So it turned that then formed me into the person who would go and petition, you know, morale is low, or I think something needs to change. I would get with people who I thought, you know, let me go and find common or the same mindset type of individuals, and then let's get together and let's come and talk about this. But what happened too when I did that, individuals got scared and they would leave me high and dry, you know? So I had to also learn how to stand alone on an island. When you stand alone on an island, it could be very scary because you're like, okay, now what? Now I'm putting a target on my back. Now I can't move how I want to move because I'm standing up for, and it's not even always about what's right. It's about standing up and acknowledging what's happening. It's not about what's right. It's like, open up your eyes. Y'all don't see people not happy? You don't see we need to make a change here? Just because it used to be like that or it's always been like that to me, we got to keep it like that. So transitioning and how you navigate took a lot of growth within myself. It took me stepping into spaces of unfamiliarity, also being positive when I didn't want to be positive, being happy when I didn't want to be happy, because I knew other people were scared. They didn't want to speak up. They didn't want to be on the island by themselves. And I said, listen, I throw myself in a lion's den because I want to affect the change. I want to be the change. You can't say you want change, but you don't want to step up to it. You know, and a lot of times in law enforcement, especially with the Blacks and the whites, and nobody ever wants to include any other minority. They don't want to include Asians. They don't want to include Hispanics. They don't want to include nobody. They just want to make it black and white all the time. And I'm like, okay, everything is not black and white, but since we want to stay in that space, let me get in it. And let me show you that women are not always aggressive. Women are not always suffering from some PMS or whatever we've created in our mind that they're suffering from. We want to stand up for what's fair. We want to build morale and team leadership, and we want to make things an opportunity for everyone to be grown and develop and just have a different experience. You know, let's talk about the biases here. What's going on? Because people like to congregate with people they're comfortable with, but they don't realize that. And in that space, a lot of times, you'll see women with the women, you'll see men with the men, you'll see Blacks with the Blacks, white with the whites. And it's because that's who you're comfortable with. You don't have to explain your background when you with your people, whatever that looks like. And your people may not be black or white because you're black or white. If you grew up in a predominantly white space, maybe that's your people and that's okay. And you feel comfortable. But people got to understand when you police them, you got your biases. Let's talk about it. Let's address it. When people come up, treat them like they somebody you know. Treat them with respect. Honor them. Everybody that calls 911, 9 times out of 10, they're not calling you because they want to provide a compliment or an ice cream bar. They're calling because it's a crisis. You meeting people at their worst. And people kind of frowned upon the fact that I would tell them, y'all's customer service is trash. It sucks. You should work on that. You know, it doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter how fluent you are or not. Everyone deserves the same fair treatment. I don't care if you handle 10 dead bodies. This person don't know that. Give them the respect they need, you know? Yeah. And so anyway, that's just kind of how I view things and my thoughts on leadership and navigation.
It's so funny. I remember because I was that kind of person too. That people said, Rick will say something. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm not going to talk for you. Because you gonna walk away. Because I was at a place one time, and we were supposed to make they wanted a goal to make $6 million, and we only made 4, and so the next year goal was 12 million, and so I'm sitting up there saying to myself, wow, we didn't make 6, we dropped to 4. How are we gonna make it to 12? And nobody's saying it. Everybody's like. And so I said, I'm sorry. I said, I have a question. How do we make it to the 12 when we fell 2 million short of the 6? How do we now, more than double the amount, and we don't even have an understanding of why we didn't make the 6? And, they were, of course, now this black guy shouldn't be asking these questions, number one. And they said, well, we'll explain that later. And everybody in there, because at that time, again, I was like the only black person there. Because, you're so used to being at a job and say, oh, there's another black person there. But I was the only black person there. And everybody came to Rick, I'm so glad you asked that question because I wanted to know too. And my thought process, well, then why didn't you go to them and talk to them? Because they're going to look at me as a black man. And number one, I don't have enough knowledge to be able to ask that question. So why are you asking the question anyway? But it was something that I needed to know. And I wanted to know, if you're going to give a directive, then you have to let me know how we're going to meet it, especially since we failed before. And so to you and your question, when you come up into that scenario and you have to be able to find a solution, like you said, the police officer would ask this question just because they didn't have no reason. How do you help others understand the proper way of speaking without sounding angry? Because let's just face it, white people get angry all the time and they're never considered angry white people. But yet we have to finagle how we speak. And that's hard for me. I'm sorry. It's hard for me sometimes, especially as a preacher. I'm straightforward. I've always has been. Brenda said, Rick, I'm like, that's why sometimes my philosophy is don't ask me a question if you don't want to know the truth. So right. How do you finagle that, especially in the situation you're in, where you're a black female in a predominantly difficult a male scenario? How do you finagle that so you be able to get the response that you're looking for without seeming like you're some angry black person?
So what I have learned, Rick, over time is that when you begin to phrase the statement in a way to where that person thinks that they thought of it already, you don't receive resistance. When you frame it as a, have you ever thought about, Rick, when people communicate, it sounds real harsh and aggressive, but sometimes if we take a deep breath before we say what we gonna say and do a body scan and we just kind of relax ourselves, it comes out different. Have you thought like that before? Is it just me? How do you think when you think about people when they communicate? And you kind of just toss it back like a tennis match, right? And you get their brain to thinking, get a little feedback, because when you just say the thing you want to say, sometimes it's not always received. But when you frame it in a way that sometimes is almost a question or I want to learn. So you say, help me learn, Rick. When you talk and you're very direct, what is it, and you begin to frame your words differently. And so, like right now, I was working recently on a small series on my social media with emotional vocabulary. Talk about how you feel when you say things or how the other person is making you feel or what you receive when you hear something, right? And so what I mean by that is when you say something to me, Rick, that's direct, how did what you say make me feel? Did it make me feel less than? Did it make me feel inadequate? Is that why I feel like you're being aggressive? Because sometimes it's not you, it's me. So when you talk to people and you realize that they're always feeling a certain way when you communicate with them, it's time to do your homework. We're
Yeah.
gonna use them like sandpaper, right? They're gonna smooth out our rough edges on us. We don't need to change them. We're gonna figure out a better approach because it's not just them always. Sometimes it's us, and we've got to work on our delivery. And we have to figure out because it does no good to be direct, but your message don't get across.
Yeah. I will say, I'm
And,
gonna just
and,
say,
and that's called code switching.
yeah.
That's what
I'm
it's
gonna tell you
called.
what is. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna be the devil's advocate because I like that part today. I hate being more white than white people.
Right.
Okay,
And
I gotta be more white than them for them to be able to accept me as, you know, okay. I'm not. Oh, he's not angry. He's just being us. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the black guy that has to be more white than a white person,
Yeah.
so the white person can accept what I'm saying. And I love what you're saying. It's so great, but there's just sometimes. Can I just be me? and
Yes.
and don't take my expression or me saying something as angry because you've already built in a thought process that I'm angry because I'm black.
So, Rick,
And
let me tell you what you could do. I like that. So, here's what you could do. You go ahead and frame what you're getting ready to say, and you say, "Hey, I have something to say, and it's going to be with a lot of passion and conviction, and I don't mean anything by it, but I'm going to go ahead and say what I got to say." And see, when you prepare the others, you got to prepare people for your passion and call it what you want because sometimes you got to prepare no matter what the race is. Because depending on how I'm feeling, Rick, I'm your same race, and I might take it some kind of way. So you got to prepare me because if I'm having a funky day, I'm gonna take what you're saying and I'm gonna feel some type of way about how you're saying it to
that's
me.
true.
If you prepare me, it's not a race thing. It's to get
Yeah.
me ready because I woke up on the wrong side of the bed too, and it sounds like you shouting, and I don't like it. But if you say, Layla, I'm about to say something, I need you to give me about 5 minutes. And what I'm gonna lay out to you is gonna sound it's gonna be real passionate and full of zest. I'm not gonna personalize it. I'm gonna receive it. And it's not code switching, it's none of that. It's preparing people for what you're gonna say and how you're gonna say it so they can receive it because that's what it's about. People need to be able to receive what you're saying.
Yeah,
but it
just
can
to
be a
add
both.
on
It can
to
be a
oh,
both and because code switching is getting in a space, communicating in a way to be received by another party that is not authentically the way that you would automatically do it because that's part of assimilation.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be zero sum. It can be a both and.
Right.
So the other thing is the part that the and part is that if he wants to be his authentic self and you are having that bad day, the difference within our community is usually it'll be, you know what, Sharon was really sharp today when she sent me that text message. But I can circle back to her because we have that built in our community.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a difference than if I have a one-off saying something to you, is a difference than me constantly walking into a room, being on eggshells, having to switch for this conversation with this person, and then going in the next room, having to switch for this person. That wears down your internal.
Right.
Doctors say it just wears you down.
Right.
You cannot keep that up. You're taking on so many different personas. And this is the other end, having the vocabulary and the technique to know when to use it to get like you said, to get your message across and then put it away. But see, we have people that will go one end of the spectrum, or the pendulum goes all the way to the other end. I'm gonna be who
Right.
I'm gonna be no matter what. Well, if you're gonna do that when you go in for the job interview, you're probably not gonna get it.
Right.
You know, so
Karen,
the
you took
thing
the words
is
right out of
knowing.
my mouth.
That's
Yeah.
good, Carrie.
Having
No, you're
the-
right. That's
Like
good.
grandma used to have that little party book down. You know, having the skill down, you got the resources.
Mhm.
You know, but just knowing when to pull it out and when to put it back in.
Yep.
You
And
took
that's
the
the
words
thing.
right out of my mouth. You took the
Yeah.
words right out of my mouth, Karen. Because I was thinking, I said, you know, you also gotta know who your audience is, and you gotta think about what it is that you want from this conversation.
Absolutely.
Do you want to be your authentic self, or you want to make sure this message
Right.
gets across?
Right.
So
Did Layla want that
you could
raise
be,
or
listen,
what?
you could be like, say it. I always say, is your message going through a window or is it going to a mirror? And by that I mean, are you realizing when you're speaking out of a window, it's transforming, it's going to someone else, and it's going to be received in so many different ways. You never know how the other person will receive it. But when you speak it in the mirror, you having a monologue and you having this discussion by yourself, and you got your own reactions, your own thought process of how it's going to be received, and then you're shocked when the other person don't reciprocal, or they don't respond to you the way that
you thought they would go.
in this mirror, because you like, well, this is what I was thinking, and this is what I meant, and this is the impact that it should have had. But you have to realize that every person approaches a conversation based on whatever they're feeling for that day,
Mhm.
whatever
In
meeting
that
they
moment.
just came out of, you know. It's like there's so many different things that goes into play when
Right.
you're interacting with someone. So it's important to always understand your audience and be prepared for a response that you may not intend it to happen. and also having the bandwidth and the ability to know that your intent is not important as important as your impact.
There
That
you go.
impact holds
Yeah.
way more weight than what your intention is. But then there's also that, as you said, that end portion, and knowing how some people can weaponize that the intent versus impact. You have some people that say, well, you know, I didn't intend for you to feel that way, when they intended exactly for the impact to be what it was.
Right.
So that goes back to the audience thing.
Dr. Sanchez, I knew you want to say something. Go ahead.
I think if we were to sort of restate, what we are really talking about is how people who have been traumatized communicate. Because the experience of the African diaspora is one of trauma. So people operate out of their trauma. It's a trauma response. Now, I think what we do, all of us who write in the green book, is what we are doing is we are teaching people how to live a trauma-informed practice. Because we have, whether by suffering or by learning about it and studying about it, just by living it, we have learned a response to our trauma that's been about our healing. And what we're trying to do is to help other people to heal. Right? So how to be informed by your own trauma, and how to be informed by responding to that trauma, and where Layla is like the GOAT, how to communicate so that you are healed and so that you heal other people.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes it is about race and sometimes it isn't. But within our context, we're talking to people who live trauma every day, who are gaslit every day. And how do you communicate out of that experience is really what's most important, because that's what helps the young person or the person who isn't quite making it. That's what helps to get to the C-suite, if they want to get there and stay there, is a mode of communication that causes people to understand what you mean and not necessarily always what you said.
Amen.
Right.
Hey, let me just say this, everybody. For you probably see it on there, but you can see it here as well. We're talking with the writers of the Triumph and the Trenches book. If you haven't been with us already, we got about another 30 minutes. you've missed a plethora of good information. I want to go starting with Philip all the way down. Basically, Philip, I just want you to give us some nuggets or tidbits that you feel that the audience should know about this book and why they should purchase it.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a conversation with one of my nieces when she got a copy of the book and had an opportunity to read it. And one of the things she shared with me was, she's about 40 years old now, and spent some time in the corporate workforce and has 3 children. And what she said was she would have loved to have had that book when she was in college and getting out and kind of getting into the workforce. So I think it is a good tool and a good resource for young folks to have some idea about what they may be getting themselves into in the workforce. And it doesn't matter if it's in the corporate workspace, if it's in education, if it's in the public sector, private sector. We all have these issues and challenges around things like systemic racism, microaggressions, and other barriers. And if you have not been in an area where you've had to deal with that, or you have not had an opportunity to be mentored or coached by someone who's had those experiences, it's really a foreign thing to deal with when you're in the workplace and you're looking for fairness and you're looking for equity. You're doing the same job as the person across the hall and they're making $10,000 more than you. I was in a situation once where I was running all over New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, establishing relationships across the board for the organization. And then there was a board seat became available on the foundation board, and my supervisor decided he wanted to give that to another individual. And I said, that individual attends some of my meetings. He has very, very little to say. He doesn't contribute a whole lot. I'm trying to understand why he would get this board opportunity over me, who've been making this contribution. And the response I got was, oh, well, you're more aggressive, more assertive, you got more stuff going on. He needs that for his resume, right? And my response was, I have a resume too, and having that opportunity on my resume would be of benefit as well. But you're dealing with those kinds of mindsets where people are looking out for people that look like them, and sometimes we're new in the workspace. They don't have relationships with us. We're not members of their country clubs or their private clubs and all those kinds of things. So it's a little bit different. So I think Triumph in the Trenches, Navigating Success for Black Professionals is a good resource for folks to have some understanding about what they may have to confront, and give them some tools to be able to do that a little bit better than kind of figuring it out as they go along.
My sister, Carrie, help us out here. Tell us the same.
Before Carrie start, we didn't do Carrie.
I know Carrie's coming back constantly. She's been on the show a couple of times. She knows when she brought these guests in here, she wasn't gonna be talking as much. And she's gonna be back again. I mean, I want all of y'all back again separately so we can dab more into your section as well. But Carrie know that. When she brought him in here, she knew she's gonna be talking less. But go ahead, Carrie.
I don't know about this family thing.
I'm trying to look out for you.
I'm telling you, I can't even get no leftovers. I brought my Tupperware and everything. So I would say one thing that would be valuable in that it is graduation season. This would be a great gift for graduates. And I think because whether they decide to go on to graduate school or whether they decide to go right into the workforce or the military, whatever space they're going to have to navigate as young adults, what's in this book is going to be prevalent for them. Even those that are leaving high school going into college, because many times you've been in a somewhat monolithic neighborhood and now you're going to a college from people from all over usually. So you need to know how to navigate um, spaces where people have different experiences and they come at the world differently. And you need to be able to see that through a lens that is one that is self-reflective and one that also filters out the other's intent. Because as a people, we are living with that generational trauma in our DNA. And we don't need to subject ourselves to more trauma. So it is the sooner you know the information, and I wish I had this book when I was in, because I would have probably moved differently. And that would be my plan, not the master's plan. He may have had me move the same way because I wouldn't be able to have these conversations. Another reason I think my grandmother used to have this saying when we were younger. She would always tell me, "You don't need to buy the sense already bought." And for me, that didn't make any sense whatsoever because I was thinking, why would I take CENTS to buy CENTS? Like, that doesn't make any sense, my dear, but whatever. And I skip on out. But as you get older, the Holy Spirit will bring that back to your remembrance. And I was like, oh, she was like, I don't need to trip up on something she already learned that she can tell me how the outcome is going to be. And so with that being said, I feel like Triumph in the Trenches Volume 2 and Volume 1 for Black professionals is the sense that we've already bought. So we're trying to keep people from going out and purchasing something that you don't have to purchase.
Right.
Learn from what we've already been through and then make it palatable and applicable to your experience, because you are not us. I mean, I'm a little country girl from Mississippi. You know, Philip's this big city man. So, you know, you have to make it where what's applicable to you. Use the strategies, the nuggets of wisdom. And if we speak of mistakes or missteps we made, you know, look for those landmines and avoid those. So I think that it is a good resource to have in your arsenal. And especially if you are a young person or you are mentoring young people. We are all open to speaking at engagements, whether it be a group of young people or workshops. And I think that is our purpose behind having this work out for people to read.
And let me say this, just for the listening audience. Carrie was on the show last week speaking about this, and this is why we brought it back. So she had ample time, and she's gonna have more time because we're gonna bring her back again. So don't be acting like I didn't just slighted the sister, because I sure didn't. She was here last week about an hour or so talking about it, and which got me to say we need to talk to more people. And so that's why that happened.
We still didn't get to the topic.
And I know, and so and we gonna get there because we're gonna be doing this again. I'm so, this book is so powerful to me. I want to talk about it continuously so people can understand that they need this. It's you got the Bible, and then you want to get your trenches. So make sure you do. I'm gonna go to Miss Lawson and ask her the same question. So I don't know if you remember it. It's just give us some nuggets about why someone should purchase this book.
Well, it just helps, piggybacking on what Carrie said, we've already walked the walk for some of it. So if I'm telling you that there's a pothole there, don't drive your car, you're going to get a flat. You already don't have no money. Just, be mindful. You can drive that, but make sure you got your money ready if you want to go back through the same pothole and get the same flat tire. But if you don't and you want to go around, you want to avoid it, then this is an opportunity to get this book, read and understand how we share how to navigate in different workspaces, create that mental resilience and that personal growth through our firsthand experiences and our authentic accounts. And create and develop those support networks. And that's it, because it's a lot of people that want to talk. So I'm gonna let everybody else say something.
Okay, so you all see me on the phone. I'm seeing my producer saying something, but I'm also looking at May, and I see that there's one. Was it 1, 2, 3? There's about four. Almost about 4 or 5. I'm looking at May because May is Awareness Month, and so I'm gonna ask all of you all in May to come back, so we can give people the awareness that they need to know about this book, because a green book for Black professionals, I mean, it has a plethora of information that, like Carrie said, we haven't gotten a chance to go to yet, and we want to make sure we get there. So I'm going to make sure, Carrie, I'm probably going to have you in April at the beginning, but we're going to get everybody in there. Huh?
You mean in May?
No, I said April. Respect me. You heard
You said in the beginning.
See what I'm saying, Miss Lawson? She's working on the brother. I said because we got 5 people. We only got 4 Tuesdays in May. So I was going to have Carrie come to the end of April.
That's next week.
That's okay. She
We act like you don't have a life, girl.
She could tell me no, but thank you very much, Miss Lawson. I'm going to go to Dr. Barnes. Can you also share your information? I told y'all it was crazy, but can you also share your information?
Don't worry about it. Just
31 years of marriage, this is what happens,
I was about to say, just remember when you hang up with us, you gotta go home to her. So remember that.
As long as I got a key, I'm okay. I don't know. She ain't decided to change the locks yet after 31 years. I'm okay.
Yeah, okay. But to answer your question, I would say this book is for everyone, whether you are in the corporate boardroom or the church house pew. This book is for you. And you are, that there was always a saying that would say, like, there's a playbook that we don't know about and rules are being paid from that book. This book is written by a group of activists in their own right who were tired of awareness and decided it was time for action. So we wrote the book. We wrote the playbook. We wrote the green book for Black professionals that teaches you how to navigate through these spaces. There are strategies and tools, like my co-author said, that you don't have to make the same mistakes that were made, because we already made them. We already created the roadmap. All you have to do is navigate through it smoothly, learn the lessons or learn from the lessons that are in the book, so that you can be 10 steps ahead of where we were when we first experienced these situations, because we already with them. We didn't listen when our parents told us, we didn't listen. We was hard-headed. So now we're trying to give you the love and the wisdom that was passed on to us and through us for you through these pages. So use this playbook, share this playbook, experience it. Even if you buy one copy, buy a second one for your shelf and one for you to pass along. This is the playbook that you need so that you will be successful and that you can triumph through any challenge, so that you know that you can bring your troops along through the trenches.
Amen to that.
And Carrie is absolutely right, because one of the things I definitely wanted to talk about when I can't see without my glasses, but it says, where are my glasses? Read that first one up there. It's almost like
Rick is microaggressions and anti-racism.
Okay, thank you. I know the preachers would know this. You know how you have an old preacher who can't really read or can't see. He would look over to her and say, "Read." So, I just did one of those right there. So she said what it is. So I know that you are. I'm gonna go to Dr. Sanchez next, but I am overlooking the fact that you all may have very important lives to work with. So if May is not something you can do, let me know. But I do want to be able to, continuously bring this book, and to people's system and to their spirit, so they can know that it's out there. Because you know how sometimes we are, if you talk about something once and it's out of sight, out of mind. So I really want people, this feels important to me to want to share it. And you get these wonderful educated individuals, giving their wisdom and knowledge about, the trials and tribulations in the workplace. I think it's very important that we share that, especially with our people. I do believe that, because we are the ones that are going through more of the triumphs or the trenches, that we need something that's going to guide us along the way and tell us where to go and where to stop. And like Mrs. Lawson said, how to speak to people. Because I do know how to speak to people. I guarantee you I do. Yeah. But I love being the devil's advocate when I get a chance to throw, because that I'm telling you what other people might think, and so that's what I'm doing. Dr. Sanchez, tell us also why you believe. Give us some nuggets and why you believe this book is as important as I think it is for people to not only get, but to read and share.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that epigenetic trauma is reversible. That is trauma that's embedded in your DNA to the point where you have hypertension, where the point where your gut hurts all the time, to the point where you can barely breathe on Sunday before you have to go to work on Monday. All of that is reversible. And we are part of your arsenal, if you will, in helping you to reverse that trauma. We are a group of friends, family at this point, who have suffered so you do not have to suffer. And one of the things I want people to really understand is that the tears that you cry in your office, the trauma that you feel, the fear that you feel, the anguish that you feel, we have felt it. So when you feel like you're by yourself, we are actually there with you. Sounds crazy, but take our book with you. And every once in a while, flip through the pages so you can be reminded that this unseen bully is a real bully and it's not in your mind. And people have experienced it and people have overcome it.
Amen.
That's the most important thing. And one of the things I leave people with in our book is what I call a fight plan, that you can either take flight or you can fight. Fight doesn't have to be aggressive, but we also teach you how to fight and what are the appropriate weapons. Also, an organization I knew actually bought a chunk of the books for their parents. It was a school, and they bought 50 books for the parents of the graduating children. And I thought that was just awesome that they did that.
Amen.
Because to your point, people need to understand that this is a powerful tool in their hand. It's something we haven't really had before, not in this one.
And I don't think people really understood the original Green Book and how important and valuable it was for African Americans at that time. It was life-saving in situations. And this can be as well life-saving, because mental, physical trauma of being in trenches that you don't have a blueprint. English is my first language. A blueprint on how you can go through the process. And like you said, why would I have to go through something if somebody's already went through it and they can help me out? And so it's so important. I know Dr. Carey, my girl, she's family for us now. We didn't claim her already. We didn't adopted her. She's part of the family, just like the rest of you all are. Carey, I want you to end it up here about it. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it. I'm going to talk to you again about, so we can get on page on what we're going to talk about. And I want to be more specific within the guidelines of your chapters so we can really help people, like a 1, 2, 3 plan, so we can really help people and dive in. I don't want to give them too much information, because then they're going to say, well, I got to read the book then. You didn't told me everything. So, I don't want to do too much. I'm smart that way. I don't want to give them too much, because I still want them to buy the book, because, you got to have the book with you. The worst thing that could have happened with the original Green Book is people think, well, I don't need it. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Because there's things in there you need to have with you so you can find your way. Not think you know your way, but find your way. And so, Carrie, I want to see if I can get everybody to possibly just give their information to Carrie so we can kind of contact you and find a date that's feasible for you. We do the show on Tuesdays live, and so if we can do that, that's fine. If we need to do a recording, let us know. But I do really want people to get a hold of this book and have the knowledge that they can have enough tidbits that they understand how important it is. Just like the Green Book was then, this book is just as valuable for you, so you can help you through the process. Carrie, end this show for us on some tidbits that you have.
So I mean,
So Brenda can be happy that you got a
so
chance to
Brenda
talk.
can be happy. So I will say those things that one of the strategies that I say is and I'll leave with this is that we all have to be self-reflective, because if you don't know who you are, you can't help someone else. If you don't know that you are a survivor of trauma and you are working through your own issues, you will just perpetuate and place that trauma upon someone else. Just like my good friend here, Cynthia, said earlier, there was a sister who was treating her in this fashion. That person was so ill that they didn't realize that they had assimilated soul to white supremacy, that they were helping the oppressor do their work to one of their own. So when I say that, I say we have to make sure that we're healthy first before we can go out and help someone else.
Yeah.
So I would rather you help yourself first before you go out and try to hurt and harm others. Because as we said earlier, you may have the best of intentions, but your impact can be detrimental.
Yeah. I will tell you, it's amazing how many times I've been in experiences like that, and the person that was hurting me the most was someone that looked like me.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was shocking to me. I'm like, bruh, sister, you know what I'm talking about. But yet they had that mentality that they were supposed to do that because they didn't have the knowledge of understanding about what you do in this situation. And so that isn't important for me, again, that we share the book, Triumph in the Trenches. I want to say this to all of you all. Thank you, number one, for not being selfish of keeping this to yourselves. That having the desire and the willing to share and help others, to share some of the trials and tribulations that you went through, and helping someone be able to make it through and feel okay that they're going through the process. A lot of times when on an island, like you said, by yourself, you're so isolated, you think I'm the only one. But when you hear somebody that has went through this and they made it over, and they are sharing tidbits that can help you, it's important to do that. But a lot of times what we do is that we get so disgruntled, we want to say, well, I ain't sharing them. You got to go through it yourself. So thank you all for having the desire to share your wisdom and to put it into print that other people could go and read it, to read, and they could run, as the Bible would say, run with the information that they have received. And so thank you for doing that and sharing it. Thank you for being available to speak to people, to be in classes and go to conferences and talking and sharing with African Americans. Thank you for being the voice of today, that you're speaking out against injustice and not just saying it happened to me, I'm afraid, but you're outspoken and to the point where it's professionally done, that people can receive it no matter what color they are. And so I appreciate you all doing that and putting that together. I don't know if there's going to be a volume 3, but
It will. It's a trilogy. It will be a volume 3.
I think you did tell me that, but I can't wait. I mean, I'm going to get volume 1 now. So and I'll be honest with y'all. The only book that I really read a lot of times is the Bible. But I will read this one.
He buy the books and
You know,
I read it. And
Yeah,
tell him
shit,
about
you
the
know,
book.
because I figure, you read it, and because sometimes it's hard for me to read a book because then I want to write something, and so sometimes you just need to just get the knowledge. But thank you all so much for sharing it, and I really appreciate if you do come back on the show to discuss your portion so it can help somebody, because you never know how you're going to help someone. Leave you with this story. I did a sermon once before. And I'd totally forgotten about what the sermon was. And this young lady came to me in tears in her eyes, walking to me, and basically said, that sermon that you preached helped me so much. And it was years ago. And I'm like, I'm trying to remember it myself. But it was because I shared something with her that she remembered. It blessed her soul. So thank you for sharing something that we can remember that will bless our souls. Thank you all very much for doing that.
I want to say something.
Go ahead, babe. Say something, boo.
I do. I want to say my takeaway tonight is I'm learning how to play Jedi tricks with people in the professional world, personal world, every world. Because when I get you guys back out here again on the show, I want to share. I think I shared with you, Carrie, about the theater world, things that happen in the theater world,
Yeah.
how white people treated us and stuff, in our professional world with
Treated
that.
her. They didn't
Well,
do that to her brother.
Well, they
Philip, you know what
he
I'm
was an
talking
angry
about.
black man.
I was going.
so-
I would have been tearing some desks up. They didn't do that to me.
Yeah, it was
Tell the
degrading
truth.
of how white women dismissed me and white men love me. So I'm torn between two worlds with them. And for white women to come to me and say the harsh things that they said,
Yeah.
Rick at the beginning when we became theater critics used to say, "Well, you have to play nice," because we was in
I
that
didn't never
world.
say play nice. No.
Well, you said I'm representing you.
I mean, just don't act as ignorant as they are. That's basically-
Well, that didn't
And that's probably
because
what we
I
see.
didn't know Layla and how to play Jedi tricks. Okay, because what came up came out. So I need
That's
you
where the
guys.
Betty Shabazz came from.
Right, because they used to come at me hard. You pretty for a black girl. What's wrong with your arm? I mean, they say you see the look on your face was a look on my face later. I'm like, we in 20 with that time.
I see.
20,
I was never
20. It's
around
like,
when that
what?
happened.
Yeah, they made sure Rick wasn't around, but they'll come to me and say stuff, and I'm like, okay, this ain't me. I'm from Roseland, a hard area in Chicago, and I'm like, I'm tired of them talking this way. That's why I need you guys to be back on the show to help me. And Dr. Sanchez has a soothing voice. She calms me literally when she talks. Her voice is so soothing. Layla, when she talk, I'm like,
Layla.
okay, I need to learn these Jedi tricks here. I really do. And then Dr. Burns with her cute little accent, I'm over here like, okay, I see it, Phil. You carry, I know you. Phil, you with him. So I'm like, whatever, Phil. Just whatever. I'm like, I'm absorbing. So I thank y'all for being on the show tonight. Carrie, I'm like at a funeral yesterday telling her, I'm going to get you everything you need in the morning for you could get the stuff out. I thank you
Yeah.
for
You're
being
welcome.
on the show today. We love and appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing the triumph in the trenches.
Yeah.
And when we can, we definitely want to get more conversation on that. We can dive a little bit more deeper into this conversations. But
And Carrie,
Yeah.
like you had everything.
I know, but we just started talking, and you came up with questions. So
Well, I want all of them to have their
I mean,
own
really,
chapter.
really, the person who changed the whole thing, Carrie, was Brenda. I'm just telling the truth. I'm speaking my mind, Miss Lawson. I'm telling the truth right now. It was her.
Well, I'm
It
about
was
to be
the
harsh.
woman. It was the
wasn't
woman
my fault.
that gave me that apple.
He didn't took a
I'm
straight
looking for a
biblical.
white flag to wait.
Yeah, y'all were hearing the news that I got in some deep trouble here, but it's all in fun and love. Hey, again, thank you all so much. We got about a minute and a half before we get cut off. Thank you all again,
Thank
and
you.
please make sure
Thanks for having
if you
us.
don't have the information to carry, give it to us so we can get together with
I
you.
will get it to her.
All
I
right.
will.
She will.
Thank you all
Stay
very much.
safe. Stay
God
safe
bless you.
out there.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Have a
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
good night.
Okay.
See you
Have a good night,
soon.
everybody.
You too.
Okay,
You
good night,
too.
everyone.
Good night. So everybody, you've been listening to Let's Stay Together Talk Show, Short Radio. We've been talking about this amazing book, Triumph in the Trenches. These people are going to come back again on the show. They're leaving us right now, but they will be back again. You need to make sure you can go get this book. We'll make sure that that information is out there so you can find out where to get this book from. We're going to get out of here before Kenny cuts us off. Baby, you got any last words?
Love you guys. See you next week.
Love you. Make sure you come back next Tuesday. Let's Stay Together Talk at 7 p.m. only on Soar Radio. See you then. Bye-bye. Facebook, YouTube. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you're back next week. We're going to be talking about this and sharing some more information about it. And so be ready so you can get your green book and know how to go through the trenches for Black professionals. And we'll see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. See you then. Bye-bye. What?